AMD just released their new X3D chip, and it already is a huge discount that completely changes my view of it. If you remember, at this year's Computex, AMD announced a slew of upcoming products, including the 7700 X3D, which is essentially a 7800 X3D with lower clocks. And at the time, I really wasn't too big on it, because it was set to launch for $329. And the problem there is that the 7800 X3D is already priced really close to that. In fact, at Micro Center, it's literally selling for just $340 right now, meaning you only get a $10 discount. Now, to give you an idea of why that matters, you can see that it's objectively worse in games. It's not much of a difference, mind you, roughly 4 to 5% faster between 1% lows and average FPS, but at this price, the 7800 X3D is just 3% more expensive, so not exactly a huge deal. That is, until the actual launch date, which is today, because as you can see, it's currently an extra $49 off on Newegg when you use this promo code. Now we're talking $280, which actually makes this a very nice deal. With that said, there is a caveat here. We didn't find this out until just recently, but for this release, as of now, it's a Newegg exclusive in North America. It is available at different retailers in other parts of the world, but it's only at Newegg in the US and Canada. Apparently, it won't be available at other retailers until at least Q4. With that said, if you are wanting to pick one up before this deal is gone, I'll have an affiliate link down in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. Nvidia's new super GPUs are apparently here, but there's a problem. According to a new report from Video Cards, at least one of Nvidia's board partners have already received physical RTX 50 Super graphics cards, meaning these aren't just specifications sitting on a spreadsheet or some extremely early prototypes. The hardware is reportedly ready, but Nvidia has told its partners to keep the cards on hold, and right now there is no new launch date. As for why, you can almost certainly guess that it all comes down to one problem: memory prices. The RTX 50 Super Series is expected to use higher density 3GB GDDR7 memory chips. That would allow Nvidia to increase the VRAM without widening the memory bus or placing more chips on the GPU. So the RTX 5070 Super would reportedly jump from 12 to 18GB, while both the 5070 Ti Super and 5080 Super would increase from 16 to 24GB. Unfortunately though, those 3GB modules are absurdly expensive, which is why I'd recommend getting your extra bytes somewhere cheaper, like Meld Bytes, my completely free newsletter where I recap the week's biggest hardware stories, go over huge deals, give you deep analysis on the semiconductor industry, and more. Just head to meldbytes.com, put your email in, and don't forget about the payment options. That's just if you want to support the newsletter financially. It's all free. Once again, that's meldbytes.com with a Y. Now back to the story. According to the report's source, a single 3GB GDDR7 chip currently costs somewhere between $60 and $70, while a normal 2GB chip costs around $20. So Nvidia is potentially paying 3 times as much money for only 50% more capacity. And once you multiply that across an entire graphics card, the problem gets much worse. The 5070 Super would obviously need 6 of those chips, while the 5070 Ti Super and 5080 Super would each need 8. Based purely on the prices in the report, that could add several $100s to the memory cost alone before Nvidia or its board partners even begin making a profit. Of course, Nvidia almost certainly receives different volume pricing, so we shouldn't treat those numbers as the final manufacturing costs, but they definitely would pay more. So it does explain why the company could be struggling to choose a launch price that doesn't either destroy its margins or make the cards hilariously expensive. Not only that, but the report also claims that the previously rumored 9GB RTX 5050 is being held back for the exact same reason. So apparently that wasn't just a bad rumor. That card would have used 3 of the new 3GB GDDR7 modules. Regardless, here's to hoping Nvidia can eventually release their super cards at an actually good price. Fingers crossed. Everyone with an Nvidia GPU needs to see this, because this new story proves exactly why I've been pushing Nvidia to restore access to its hotspot temperature reading. For those who haven't kept up with the story so far, a couple videos back I discussed a Brazilian repair specialist named Paulo Gomez who discovered a major cooling issue on a Gigabyte RTX 5070 Ti. The card's normal GPU temperature appeared completely fine at around 67 degrees Celsius, but Nvidia's own internal diagnostic software revealed that the hottest section of the GPU was actually reaching roughly 106 degrees. And because Nvidia no longer allows normal monitoring programs to access the hotspot temperature on its RTX 50 series, the owner could have continued using the card without ever realizing what was wrong. Then, almost immediately after that story began making the rounds, developers found ways to bring the reading back. First, HW Monitor added RTX 50 hotspot support, HW Info followed shortly after, and now AIDA64 supports it as well. And this brings me to a new report where owners are finally beginning to check their own RTX 50 series GPUs. And some of the results are seriously concerning. According to the report, one owner tested a colorful 5080 and discovered that its hotspot temperature was reaching nearly 100 degrees Celsius. Now, with that said, there is apparently a bug on the first version of HW Monitor that was reporting slightly higher temps, and this user was using HW Monitor, though we don't know what version. So there is a chance that this exact GPU is within the range of acceptable temps, but the real story here is actually the response from Colorful. Plus, don't forget that what started this whole thing was a GPU that did in fact have wildly high hotspot temperatures that was caused by bad thermal paste and an uneven cooler. So basically, you absolutely should check the hotspot temps of your GPU, like I would do it right after this video, especially because according to a statement from Colorful, if the card remains at 95 degrees Celsius or higher for more than 10 minutes under a heavy workload, it should be treated as overheating. The company first recommended checking for dust buildup and making sure the computer has proper airflow. But if the GPU continues running at or above 95 degrees under good cooling conditions, Colorful recommends applying for an after-sales inspection so it can check the card for a cooling defect or another hardware issue. And that is honestly awesome of Colorful to admit. Instead of pretending it isn't an issue at all, they actually claim that it's a problem. Even with temps at 95 degrees, it isn't going to instantly melt a chip or anything like that, but it will almost certainly age quite a bit faster than temps at say 60 degrees. So it is a problem. It's just nice to see a company admit that. Regardless, this clearly shows the importance of checking your own GPU's hotspot temp, so I'll have links to some software that currently supports it down in the description below.